Chapter 24. It's true that pigs can't fly, but we're here to talk about hogs. In 1539 or thereabouts, the conquistador Hernando de Soto, after whom our information headquarters is named, sailed from Spain to the New World. In his company of 7 ships and 2 caravels, there were 520 horses and 200 hogs. You heard me. 200 hunky honkin' hogs. Some of those hogs died at sea. Some of them were gobbled up by the conquistadors. But some, once the boats docked, escaped and formed their own colonies. Those were the first hogs to set foot on American soil. It turns out that Hernando de Soto was not a very nice person. He pillaged and looted and generally wreaked mayhem wherever he went. He also wore a heavy suit of metal armor, which, unlike natural fabrics, did not breathe. And since he didn't bathe very often, it's fair to say that he was rank. Seriously, swamp gas couldn't compete. He's buried somewhere at the bottom of the Mississippi River, and good riddance. It also turns out that the descendants of De Soto's hogs weren't very nice either. They're still conquering parts of North America, which we'll discover soon enough. Chapter 25. I'm thinking it's soon enough, young grasshoppers, because the sorry truth is, the Pharaoh gang was on the march. There are hogs and then there are bad hogs. Emphasis on bad. Clarification. Wild feral hogs are not to be confused with the native peccaries, also known as javelinas. Peccaries have been here all along. Just check the fossil records. They are smaller than hogs, and even though they look like pigs, peccaries are really not true pigs. There are some who think they're related to the hippopotamus. Seriously, now don't laugh. And just like the hippopotamus, you can't round them up and turn them into pets. That's for sure. Of course, you can't round up a wild hog and turn it into a pet either. A wild hog is just that. Wild. On the morning he was born, Buzzy's mama bellowed in glee at her son's badness. "This one is going down in Boer history," she exclaimed. Right away, she named him Buzzsaw Pharaoh. Buzzy for short. Buzzy lived up to his name. Before he even lost his baby tusk, no Boer was better at uprooting a pasture. No hog ever did so much damage to a creek bottom. He muddied it up so much that the water came to a complete standstill. Not since those conquistador hogs stepped off Hernando's boats and cleverly escaped into the Floridian wilderness had there been such a wily hog. Not only that, but Buzzy was enormous, weighing in at almost 400 pounds. He was a veritable buzzsaw of a hog. Nothing could stop him, nothing, except Clydeen. At the moment she was born, her daddy declared, "This is the baddest little sow I've ever seen." And she was. As soon as she could stand on her stout little legs, she tore through an entire soybean field. She ruined a season's crop of peanuts. And she plowed under a pasture where a flock full of little lambs stood cornered in the far side with nothing at all to eat. It was a sorry sight. Clydeen grew and grew and grew. Soon she was almost as large as Buzzy. So when they met, it was a match made in hog heaven. He immediately fell in love with her soft sow's ears. She immediately went gaga over his yellow gleaming eyes and his razor-sharp tusks. He was so crazy about her that on their first date he dug up 3 acres of tobacco and let her chew up every leaf. The next time they got together, she took him to a watering hole and tramped it down until there was not one drop of water left, only muck. They wallowed in it for hours. "Buzzy," she gruntled, "you're the baddest hog I've ever met." "Clydeen," he snortled, "you're my little junkyard hog." And with that, they joined forces and tore down a grove of small magnolia saplings that were just getting their new leaves and gobbled them all up. Soon they had a whole litter of little boars and sows. 15 of them. Imagine it. 17 bad hogs. Bad hungry hogs, bad ravenous hogs. On the rampage. On the move. The baddest gang of wild hogs in history. The Pharaoh gang. Mothers and fathers, lock your doors. Pull the covers up to your chinny chin chins. Turn out the lights. And here's the really bad news. One night, a terrorized fox, whom they had cornered in a peanut field, told them, under extreme duress, that the best, the very best, food in the entire world was the wild sugar cane that grew along the banks of the Bayou Torturel, the slow-moving stream that ran through the Sugar Man swamp. Buzzy's yellow eyes gleamed into the darkness. He charged at the poor fox and sent her howling through the night. Then he turned to Clydene and said, "Anything for you, my dearie dear?" And with that, they turned south, all 17 of them, while visions of sugar cane danced in their heads. Chapter 26. After Jaeger and Sonny Boy drove off, Chap felt an urge to throw all of the pots and pans against the wall, and he might have if it hadn't been for Sweetums. The tall ginger cat wove his way around his boy's ankles, which had a surprisingly calming effect. While Chap gathered his wits, the cat stretched his full length, then sauntered over to his food bowl in the corner and started to munch. It was some sort of crunchy mix especially designed for adult cats with hairballs. It wasn't the same tasty flavor as, say, fresh catfish, but altogether it wasn't that bad. And it did seem to assuage the hairballs, which Sweetums had to admit weren't all that attractive. Then he remembered that he needed to let Chap know that something wasn't right with the world. Last night had brought some odd rumbles up through the floorboards, and he could tell they weren't the usual rumblings of the thunderstorm. "People," he announced, "I've come bearing news." He said it in his clearest Catalan, but to his chagrin, they both ignored him. He meowed again, "Heads up, people." But instead of offering him a listening ear, Chap told him, "You know you have to go to the back during cafe hours." Of course Sweetums knew that. Duh. The back was where the family actually lived. The front was the cafe. There was a back porch which was screened in, and a front porch which wasn't screened in. Sometimes a customer chose to eat his or her pies on the front porch, an action that Sweetums understood because he longed to go out there. Alas, "You're an indoor cat," Chap told him. "If you got out, you'd eat all the baby birds." "Baby birds would be nice," replied Sweetums, licking his chops. But alas, again, it was against the rules. Who made these rules anyway, he wondered? Were any of them written in Catalan? He was especially not allowed into the cafe during business hours. Chap told him it had something to do with the county health department and cleanliness regulations, which was a puzzle because, "People, can't you see that I clean my fur all the time?" He was reasonably sure that he was cleaner than any number of the patrons who ate their fried pies. Then again, there was that whole hairball thing. Humans, they had such weak stomachs. Still, hairballs notwithstanding, he knew that something was not right in the swamp. He meowed again, to no avail.